Here. There we go. Started the recording. It seemed like somehow it was already started, but I started the recording in the cloud. Welcome everybody to the advisory group meeting. Um, Looking forward to chatting today and hearing. Always love to hear your input and feedback and suggestions on where we are and where we should be. And the uh, the agenda for today with notes, if you don't already know it, is I'm going to put it in the chat here. And I think we'll have other people joining us as we go, but we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. Um, I'm Randy Fay. I'm the lead maintainer of DDEV, and I think all of you probably know me. I'm in Palisade, Colorado, in the far west part of Colorado. We're in the hot days of summer now. It's been getting up in the 100 degree, or is that 35 degrees centigrade, something like that. Pretty cooking days of summer here. When we want to get outside, we need to get outside early in the day, but it does cool down at night, which is great. So that's me. Truls, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Truls. I'm from Norway. It's not as hot here, warm here as in Colorado. It's about 22 degrees Celsius. And, working with a developer as a consultant, um, trying to find time to involve in this here in DV so I can see what I can kind of like gain out of it and what everyone can gain out of it in the community. Yeah, that's pretty much it from my side.
Great to have you. Great to have you. Selwyn, go ahead.
Hi, Selwyn Pollitt in Austin, Texas in the US. Um, I'm a Drupal developer and I've written a book called Drupal at Your Fingertips, Drupal documentation, and yeah, just interested. And it's in Texas, it's hot. Yeah, it's hot all the time, except when it rains, then it cools down a little bit.
If you haven't taken a look at Drupal at your fingertips, it's an amazing resource and has lots of detail about ways to use DDEV, even for people that don't that aren't focused on Drupal. It has all kinds of great stuff. It's Selwyn's notes to himself about how to, how to keep everything straight. But it's an enormous, valuable resource.
That's
So
right.
let's see. Carrie, go ahead.
I'm Kerry Gordon. I've been involved with Drupal for 20 years, I think. Yeah, 20 years. Hard to imagine. And right now I'm semi-retired. I work, tend to do most of my work on a project called Islandora, which is a digital asset management system based on Drupal, which we're trying to figure out how to develop in DDEV with it. But and I'm in Los Angeles, which is having a spate of perfect weather, sort of like Norway. Um, and this is not where I am. This in the
Yeah, I
background
was
is not
I
where
was
I am.
wondering if that was a fake background.
Yes, that's totally, yeah. No, if I lived here, I'd be Jeff Bezos now.
Okay, Damilola, I haven't met you before. Please introduce yourself if you can. We'll come back to you. Uh, and Mladen, you want to introduce yourself if I say your name right?
Sorry. Yes, you did. My name is Mladen. I'm from Serbia and have been Drupal developer for 2 decades. And I usually enjoy giving sessions and workshops on development with DDEV for both Drupal and WordPress communities. And sometimes I'm speaker on conferences like Drupal Jam and Developer Days, and hopefully I'll be there, if not for Vienna, but for Athens, definitely.
Wow, thanks for all that great work presenting on DDEV and helping people to understand DDEV. That's wonderful. Glad I remember chatting with you about that, and I'm really glad to hear that you're doing that in so many places. Do you publicize those things on social and such, or?
Yeah, I'm really ashamed that I'm kind of an old school. Not that I don't like it, but it's more like after it happened, like, oh, I should. All right, next time. It's usually.
The thing is, if there's any way to help publicize or broaden the knowledge of what you're doing, we're happy to repost or figure out how to post, or if you have a blog announcement and you let me know, I'll post it. I know that in a lot of cases at conferences, maybe that doesn't matter. People are just deciding whether to go, but you're going to a lot of great long-term effort on these things and developing a lot of capabilities and making those available to more people is a great way to leverage your impressive effort.
Well, for Drupal developers, it's something like common ground. But for WordPress developers, they usually are working online, live. They just adore working on live site, checking things. I don't know why it's a thing, but it is. And I'm trying to promote the workflow, which includes DDEV, local development, staging, promoting to live. But sometimes for them it's just too technical, too distant. And recently I was talking to a colleague, and his company is working with Docker Compose, and because I was mentoring him, he tried to introduce them to DDEV, and they were like, no, it's too complicated. It's easier with Docker Compose. And he was like, how could it be easier? But then again, okay, that's it.
Everybody has their own world, don't they? And they have to, you have to stick with the tools. Yeah, you move on when you need to move on, and you don't always know how. Andrew, great to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Berry. I'm the Director of Technology at Lullabot. We're primarily a Drupal and Drupal adjacent shop. So we do a lot of, design and UX work as well. Otherwise, I don't know if you had it. You said something about weather. I'm outside. This is actually real. But we are past our first major heat wave where with the humidity it got up to 45 Celsius. I'm up near Toronto. So yeah, that's what we've got right now.
It's great to have you. Paul, I think you're the only one I've missed so far. Go ahead. Oh, no, Stas has to come after Paul.
Paul Gilzo with Upsun, developer advocate. I'm based in Missouri in the States, here to just kind of catch up on what's going on in the DDEV world. It's temperature-wise, it's not too bad, but the humidity is up around 92%. So even with milder temps, it's horrible outside.
Is the official branding Upsun now for platform stuff, or is it on its way, or?
September 23rd is the official date, but we're in that kind of limbo period.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. We have goals for both Upsun and platform this year. that are high priority, but trying to understand where the branding thing is and what it means is always a question, which you've been dealing with for a long time. So, yeah, Stas, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stas Zhuk. I'm a maintainer of DDEV. I live in Kremenchuk, Ukraine, and I have similar temperature to what the trolls have. So it's like this.
All righty. Well, it's great to see everybody. Did I miss anybody, or is that? I think I got everybody. Thanks to both of you interpreters for being here, and it's always great for you to make that possible and easy for trolls to come. So,
Hey, Randy.
I think you need to give Damiola another shot.
Amiola, give us another shot.
Turn on your mic. Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I think I'm the only African on the chart. I'm from Nigeria. And then this year is my first year of trying out DDEV. I always use Laravel Hard for my local development. So sometimes late last year, one of my open source tool, DevDB, it's a VS Code extension for managing databases in VS Code. One of the users submitted an issue with using DDEV with the extension. That was the first time I got to hear of DDEV. So earlier this year, I gave it a shot and it was very fantastic. I loved it. So ever since then, I've been using DDEV, and I think coming here will give me more of like an insider feel about what makes DDEV have its magic, which I think is the awesome maintainers and all you fantastic people that are helping to shape the movement of the tool. So thank you for building DDEV, and thank you for having me.
We are so glad to have you here today representing Africa. So that's fantastic. Great to see you.
Can I represent Africa too?
It's 3:15.
I'm from South Africa.
There you go.
I don't know if it really counts, but
Love that.
hi.
Hey, does anybody know if in Zoom I have to do something to get the AI note taker to note take, or is that just automatic? I think it's automatic.
Yeah, that fireflies thing.
That's not related. That's
Oh,
somebody else turned that on.
I think
But
once you start recording in Zoom, it now does transcripts.
I think that's what I think. So I'll have to change the note to myself in the agenda. So, did somebody else have something to say before we get going on the agenda? Didn't know whether we go ahead. Okay, let's go ahead. The first thing that I have here is the trademark and logo ownership situation. The process of transferring the trademark to the DDEV Foundation is still a fairly in process thing where platform or Upsun or whatever you want to call them is working diligently with lawyers to get that done, but it's not done. I got a email the other day saying that it was done, and it turned out that it wasn't done at all. But it is something that they're doing in due diligence with a good aim and intent, and hopefully it won't take forever. Then we'll have the problem of managing and defending those ourselves, which is not something that is in our comfort zone. I did open the second item there. I did open an issue about trademark and logo policies, and I would be interested in your comments in that issue. we need to make it clear to people what the appropriate use of the DDEV word mark and the logo are. We've generally been fairly gentle about that to date, except perhaps with commercial projects. But we definitely have to have a clear statement about that. Benny, glad to have you here.
Right.
Benny's a big wig in the Typo 3 world. Big wig. And big supporter of DDEV over a lot of years. So I put in here a thing about maintainers. As you know, let me just ask if there's any comments about trademark and logo policies. Any thoughts about the path forward? Of course, your comment in the issue is welcome, but any thoughts or comments or suggestions about how we should be thinking about trademark and logo? I love the sign language for waiting for waiting for a little input. Anyway, your thoughts and contributions there are welcome, or especially if you have any notes about what other organizations are doing. And yes, thank you, Andrew. It's 7371 is the issue that you posted. If you have anybody's examples of projects like ours and what their policies are, that would be excellent. We already have guidance for how to use those things in the docs, and we have the logos for download and that kind of thing, but we don't have clear policies about what you could use them for and where you could use them. And so I would love to hear your thoughts as we go forward on that. I put a note in here about maintainers and continuing to get fully trained and privileged maintainers on board. We've been doing really well, and we have some great maintainers and contributors. And of course, now that we have Stas on board, and he's working full-time, and I'm working full-time, we are in a lot better shape than we were when it was me as the only lead maintainer. So that's excellent. But of course, over the next years, I will fade away, and we need the project to have clear capabilities and clear plans as we go forward. So we still are needing to develop those. And if we could come up with, I've started a list of perhaps potential maintainers, but we still have the whole training thing, probably need to start the contributor training things again, but getting people who are making regular contributions at a high level to become more privileged maintainers is a good thing. We have been giving, we often add people to the project, make it easier for them to do issues or reviews or that kind of thing. But as far as getting somebody of Stas's caliber, a new person of Stas's caliber, we aren't anywhere near that at this point in our history. So I don't know whether anybody could ever come up with somebody of Stas's caliber, but, but anywhere in the neighborhood would be fine. So any comments or thoughts about how we should be taking that on? I just
There,
wanted,
there are
yeah,
a couple of things, from my history, looking at, some operational things that are interesting to write down. And that's obviously, Randy, your brain dumped somewhere. Like, let's say the version strategy, and the decision when a feature should go in and when not, um, along like the day-to-day things that are important that should be tackled is the one step that we need to write down. And every time you notice some regular thing you do in your daily work, you should write it down. What's important, what's the DNA of this project. Do we is DDEV there to support everything, and it's big, and it's for everyone, and or is it actually at its core just a basis, but it's extendable for people with their own use case? Is the goal to have any CMS in the world support it? Or is it actually, like, what's this threshold for this example, for instance? What's the decision making process in your head to say, oh yeah, we should support it? Maybe because we have 5 people asking for it, or 12, or this is the kind of thing that I think is a natural thing for you to like. It's a gut feeling. Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and the other isn't. And that's the one thing. And the other thing is actually to have, let's say, a real life meeting at a DrupalCon or something, where we could sit together and think about a strategy of where the type of project it should become. You need the DNA, and you need the vision where we want to have it, and that's where we need a lot of people stick their head together. That's
that's really, really good stuff. I'm going to make sure to add you to the project and point out the private repo that we have, where we do capture a number of things. But overall, your comments, which are super valuable, are kind of the point of our move toward formalized governance, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And so with formalized governance, we should be able to move past, well, this is what Randy thinks today, or this is what Stas thinks today. We probably do have relatively predictable behavior, but it probably, as you say, it is probably not stated or verbalized in an adequate way. And moving toward that is really part of the informal part of moving toward improved governance, is having a clear way to make decisions like that. So, and to make overall high-level strategic goals for the project. So thank you for that.
So isn't one of the challenges that the Venn diagram overlap for PHP CMS developers and Go developers is vanishingly small? I mean, sure, the high level, anyone can, project manage, but uh, at the actual nuts and bolts level, is that an issue?
That's always the fact that our community is intimidated by Go is a clear problem. Of course, DDEV isn't just Go; it's many, many things, and many of those are familiar, but a lot of them are not. A lot of those aren't familiar enough to PHP developers. Like, most PHP developers don't really know how to configure PHP or Apache or Nginx or Linux or any of those things that are all components of the DDEV project. The Go part is kind of a wrapper that runs all of those things, kind of runs servers. But yes, of course, the ability to grow maintainers requires, with DDEV structure, it requires people to be less intimidated by Go. Although we have quite a number of maintainers who have, or contributors who have gone over that. Go, the way we use Go is not very complicated. And it looks familiar to people who have done most procedural type languages like older PHP and that kind of thing. But that's I don't know training the maintainers and improving maintainers and figuring out those things. I don't know how we're actually going to solve the problem of PHP developers being intimidated by Go, because that's a pretty natural thing.
Okay, maybe I'll look for resources for PHP developers learning Go. I mean, yeah, I'm not really up for learning another language, but I've learned in my billion years of being on Earth a few of them. So
That's my experience too. It's one reason that Go, as used in DDEV, is much more like the C that I used 30 years ago.
oh yeah,
So
Kernighan and Ritchie, baby.
Anyway, thank you to both of you for those ideas and the overall governance ideas. And as we move forward, the path in governance, as we'll talk about in a minute, is going to be critical. What we have, well, let's just skip there, and then we can come back to the other things since we're already talking about governance. We have proposed at the last meeting a review of the Apache Project Management Committee model that Backdrop CMS, which is a Drupal fork, has used successfully. And I have there's a link there in the notes that we have for today. And it's not very hard to think about, and it's not very hard to think about with Backdrop's use of it. They've done a very simple use of it, but I went ahead and thinking about that, it looked to me like our first step to governance, which is similar to our plans for this year. Our first step was really just to have a board of 3 people and call it a project management committee, and change our founding document, our articles of incorporation, to incorporate that, and then to incrementally move forward on that to come up with the very simple documentation and strategies along the model that Backdrop has done. A very simple way to break out of our talking about governance for however many years we've been talking about it, and going forward. So the proposal there is a very simple update to our Articles of Confederation that basically envisions a board of 3 members, and it also has something in it that solves a problem that I worried about and that we've talked about in these meetings over the years. It has a 2-year veto power for me as a member of the board. So that allows me to calm down about what if the board doesn't work out, or doesn't behave, or has a rogue member or something like that. So that just softens, and I would imagine that would never be needed. But thinking of that idea and putting it in there just solved the worry for me of how those early years of a board would work out. And then I would envision things essentially working like they do now, except that we would have the formality of a board being able to undertake key decisions. So we'd carry on with our current meeting strategy and everybody being able to contribute. But if we needed to make decisions that required more deliberate decision making, we would have a way to do it with a board. So I hope that you'll be able to take a quick look at the proposed articles of incorporation, which is just a minor change to what's currently filed with the state. What's currently filed with the state has me as the board, and that's all. Thanks, Selwyn, for posting the direct link to that. So your comments about that are super welcome. Your comments about the ideas are welcome. I'm pretty happy about this idea because it gives us a way to get past the hand wringing and worrying, and gets us to a simple board governance technique. So comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that it looks great. I appreciate the 2-year veto thing, but I think you need some kind of permanent mechanism to remove a board member because you might not always have the same board members, and you might have turnover, and you might feel the need to change a board member. I don't know if you have board member terms or renewal, but I didn't see anything in there. But you, which I guess in this case does mean you, or the board, should have a mechanism. I mean, you're at 3 people, you can't have an executive board and other sub-boards, really. You only got a committee of the whole for everything. But I think that you should have some way of dealing with the situation that will probably never arise.
Yeah, it may too. We did have a couple of good conversations with the Backdrop folks, and they actually did have a an original board member that they preferred not to have in the end. And they did actually have to do something about it. I think that person ended up fading away. It was not a great crisis, but yes, that absolutely happens. And you cannot count on the fact that you have a hand chosen. Well, that's what the reason that I'm shy about this whole thing is that 10 years ago, I spun off control of a nonprofit to a board, and one of the members of that board, hand chosen by me, a friend, went wild and nuts and angry and mean and disruptive, and there was nothing that could be done about it. And it was ugly. It was a terrible thing. So yes, absolutely. Selwyn, looks like you're raising your hand.
Yeah, on the same vein, I don't know why you wouldn't just leave yourself having forever full and uncontested veto power. To me, that solves the problem right there. Why limit it to 2 years?
Because I need to fade away.
Yes,
It doesn't stop you fading away if you have uncontested veto power.
Yes, Randy. So I give you just a story from Tempo 3 where Casper Skarhøj from Denmark started everything. At some point I took over, and I seldomly asked him things, hey, I would remove this and that. Are you okay with it? And at some point he's like, well, he always said, of course, if you think that's the right thing, go with it. At some point he said, you're no longer in control that I've been. I think it's more your project than mine. And I think, you will feel that point as well. And that's why I don't think there's an issue. If you have the veto power, it doesn't matter if you use it, right? I think that's what Selwyn's saying. It's like, it's not a bad thing. And the farther you're fading away, the less you need to actually think about it.
That's a that's a valid strategy.
And especially if you know that the project is in good hands, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if every decision is something you would approve, but it also matters less the further you fade in 20 years. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for those. Thank you for those thoughts. I think that's important. For some, I guess, because we had been talking about trying to get away from the benevolent dictator model, I hadn't considered the veto power in the past, and it made me calm down. But you're right. But if I don't use the veto power, then I'm not then we have moved a little ways away from the benevolent dictator model. So that's yeah. So not limiting it is an option. Not limiting it in time is an option.
Yeah, I think that in a bigger organization, you could have other mechanisms, but in an organization of this scale, I think having a little bit of benevolent dictator in there is important, especially for the first few years.
Yeah, I think that that
I
has
made
potential. Go ahead.
I made a small edit in the document. I have edit. I don't have edit, so I have suggestion power.
Yes, exactly.
If you'd
Yeah.
like.
Thank you. Anyway, so I would propose that we talk about this again in at our next meeting in September, and that we try to adopt a final draft in November at our meeting. So that your comment on there, everybody has the power that Selwyn has to add suggestions or comments, and your thoughts in the issue that's linked there are very welcome. And this is really great. Thank you very much for your thoughts here.
And just a question, so what do you envision the time commitment and the actual activities of this board of directors project management committee?
Right now, the way I think about it is that it would be mostly like coming to these meetings every 2 months. The treasurer, treasurer is something we'll talk about in a minute. That one option is for the treasurer to be a member of that board. The treasurer probably has to do a little bit more. I would like to spin off for good governance reasons. I would like to spin off my role as treasurer so that I don't have the power to just automatically make payments or make decisions about where money goes. I'd like to spin that off. So the treasurer probably has a bit more work, but the treasurer doesn't even have to be a member of the board of directors in most organizations. So I don't see it as being a very big thing, although maybe I'm wrong, Selman. I don't think it has to be very hard. So this is probably the most important thing that we will talk about today, or at the next meeting, or at the one following. And I really appreciate your thoughts and follow up on it, either in the linked issue or by making suggestions on the document there.
What do you think the timeline is to put this into effect?
I think it should go into effect in November. November 2025, and it can be filed with the state of Colorado as an update. And then I would think of the timeline after that of our growing maturity and communication to fill out, like if you follow what Backdrop has done, they've made a number of clear web pages about what this actually means and how it's implemented. And those are very useful, very available. and malleable as well. So they have in their what are they, 10 or 15 years old now, over their time they have adjusted their communication and that sort of thing. And it's very, very impressive, but it's also still quite simple. And for the size of our organization, we are able to keep this simple, and we don't even envision it having a reason to become less simple, I don't think. So
one other curiosity, I noticed it references the Apache 2 open source license. Is that necessary to be part of the Articles of Incorporation? And seems like that's kind of in the weeds a little bit, no? And why?
you know, I think I might have had to add that for the IRS.
Okay.
I know I had to answer that question for the IRS.
Okay.
They wanted a formal statement of what made us open source and nonprofit. And so maybe that's why that's there. It's a good point, though.
Yeah, I
does
was
it
just
matter?
curious. Yeah, because when I did the book, I had to pick a license, and I don't know, I picked one because I didn't know any better. I'm just curious what made you pick the Apache 2.
We chose Apache 2 very, very early with some variety of conversation. It's probably the most popular for true open source projects. But as you know from what you said about your book, it's mind-bending, all the different things that there can be. So, but Apache 2 is in my opinion, a good choice. It's one we made ages ago, probably 8 years ago, and we've been consistent with it. And it's a good and simple and true open source license. So I don't think we've made a mistake on that. Okay, popping back to in-person conferences, I'm going to present at Drupal Camp, Colorado, and then it turns out that Laracon is right after that in Denver. And since it doesn't cost I have a friend to stay with, and I've already driven to Denver. It doesn't really cost anything, so I'm going to do Laracon. I don't know how to contribute at Laracon, but maybe I'll be able to understand our Laravel folks more by going. So that's good. I am going to try to put together funding for DrupalCon Vienna. If your organization or one that you know of knows of somebody that would sponsor the airfare or the lodging. I applied for a free conference ticket for mentoring today. So if I can come up with lodging and airfare, and if I can get that conference ticket that way, then I think I can probably do it. I have been to a lot of these DrupalCons, and I do know how to contribute at them through mentoring and through doing birds of a feather sessions. So I think that should be good. And I'll be doing, for the Typo 3 folks, I'll be doing a big event at Typo Camp Rhein-Ruhr in November. And so that's something that they put together, even though they're a completely volunteer organization. They figured out how to pay for the travel. And I think I'm going to stay with one of them. And it'll be a great thing. And we're doing a full day. I think we're doing a full day paid event that will cover the travel or something like that. So anyway, it's very exciting to get to do that. But I'm always really interested in how to build community and communicate with our many different communities. So I'm always interested in what you have to say about that, how to communicate that we're willing to travel to do those in-person events, especially if we can figure out how to contribute to them. So any comments on the in-person events topic?
I think I have a little bit to add to especially the Laracon aspect, because I'm mostly a Laravel developer. So one thing I noticed in the Laravel community recently there's this shift away from Docker environment. So by that I mean, so before now, I think 3 years ago, so there used to be a Laravel tool called Laravel.
Heard?
I've forgotten the name now. So it was a successor to a project called Sail. So Laravel Sail is what allows you to work with Laravel projects in your Docker containers. So two or 3 years ago, there was this project that came along, Laravel Hard, that moved away completely from the containerization strategy, and it just installs native dependencies and all that. So when that tool came on, a lot of users drifted away from using containerization and Docker and all that setup to just using native applications. So I think one way that DDEV can come in and kind of take care of that group of developers that were kind of forced to move away from using Docker and containers and all that to using the native approach that Laravel Hard brought, is to, so for example, I heard Randy is going to be going to Laracon, unfortunately not to present. I would have, so that would have been, for example, an opportunity to showcase and really reintroduce Docker and all that, the benefits and how DDEV makes it easy, because to be fair, it wasn't really a smooth sail to use Sail, pun intended, to use Sail for Laravel, to manage your Laravel projects. So I can understand why it is easy for developers to just choose the new approach of doing Laravel Hard. So I believe with the simplicity that DDEV brings to using containers to run PHP applications locally, DDEV is better positioned to reintroduce that, and of course, maybe even give a talk. I know the call for papers is closed now for Laracon, so I mean, then it may not be feasible to even put together a talk for the July conference. But I think maybe looking to the future, maybe for next year, there may be a talk at Laracon. There's always like a Laracon happening every other month or something,
Yeah,
But
that would be, if you're able to introduce us or suggest ways to do that, that is very, very welcome. One of the things that I notice about Laravel and WordPress in particular is that there are specific local development tools that are really only for those platforms. Whereas DDEV, most developers are working on more than one platform. And so DDEV is very popular among people that are switching back and forth between Craft CMS and Drupal and DDEV, and so people, real live developers usually work on more than one thing. And so if you have to change your local approach, that's not that great. And I think that's a big selling point for DDEV, is that it can be used so many places. So thank you. Would appreciate if you could feed me ideas about how to do that, especially with your home territory of Laravel. That'd be great.
yeah,
Okay,
sure.
I know that all of you are going to have to go in a couple of minutes here, so let's move along. Our Typo 3 community ideas for Q2 and Q3 did not win in the voting, but we did get 7,500 euros from the Typo 3 Association for the excellent Q1 idea, which allowed us to use XHGUI in DDEV, which has been very well received. And so that actually was a great help to our budget this year. It is discouraging that we've had 2 in a row now that didn't get accepted, but we'll keep trying with that. Our amplitude stats show about 17,000 weekly users of DDEV now, which is shocking how much it seems to grow I think that's up 3,000 weekly users since six months ago or whenever I wrote that blog post. And on finances, just as the big picture, we have about $12,800 in the bank today after the July payments went out. Our average monthly income shows about 77.59, which is a little tiny bit down from a month ago. Sponsors come and go. And if you have a chance, have any questions on the two reports there, those are all welcome. A big step forward was that Mike Anello, who has privileges on the bank account and on our wise.com account, made payments to Stas and me, or at least to Stas in May. We'd had a little learning episode with that, making sure that his privileges were adequate, and we did document that in our private repository. So that is that is huge. And of course, I'm picking on him to hope that he could become um, the first independent treasurer of the organization. So that's a really good thing. Any comments on finances, sponsorship, or anything of the type? Carrie.
Yeah, so is anything happening with Drupal embracing DDEV as a standard or officially embracing, because we've already embraced it, I think, in general. And along with that, any chance of getting any money from the Drupal Association?
So the Drupal community has really very much embraced, in a practical way, DDEV, and the other things seem to be fading away. Doxel seems to have drifted into no maintainership, and Lando seems to be making very little progress, and people have been very much coming along to DDEV. No, there has never been any comment about the Drupal Association. I have raised the issue in passing, and there has been nothing of the type. And of course, Typo 3 has no normal ongoing situation like that either. And I keep trying to raise that, but I haven't done that either. Craft CMS does a kind of a token $1,200 a year, which is great and very much appreciated. But I think all of those organizations, those associations benefit so much from having a standardized local development that they don't have to maintain, that they really should be doing very significant contributions to the DDEV Foundation.
Yeah, I think a follow-up on that, and every time I say this in an organization, I doesn't always get a positive response, but I think that our next hire should be a development person, not a developer, uh, and you know, part-time development person, somebody whose job it is to go out and get money, and somebody who knows how to do it, and somebody who is not shy. Like you may be a little shy, so maybe not, but I don't know. But I think that you know we need more money, really, to do what we do. I mean, I don't know how accurate those amplitude. I would think they're low, the numbers, but you know, a lot of people do this stuff for a living. And, you know, a lot of people in the open source community are really opposed to paying for anything. But you got to pay sometime, and you know it's what we do. We like these tools. Certainly, DDEV is a huge help to Drupal developers. Uh, you know, and by the way, the other thing I'd like to see is an integration with Warp, but I don't know how many people that applies to.
people are using it successfully. I do think I would love to see a DDEV.com article about how to use it. We do have careful documentation already about how to use VPNs in general, and Cloudflare's Warp, I think, deserves some attention as well. So,
Cloudflare's Warp. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
oh,
I'm talking about the Warp AI terminal. That's, you know, it it will give you a lot of suggestions that are often useful, but when you use it with DDEV, it tends to give suggestions that are more generic PHP and not DDEV specific. So that's what an integration with Warp would do, is give more Drupal or give more DDEV specific help. And if I wrote Rust, I think it's in Rust, yet another language, I would probably work on that. But and maybe I will anyhow. I don't know. But
yeah, just
I'd love
we'd
to see
love
that.
we'd love to have yeah, contribution, DDEV.com blog, or an issue, or how you use it, or everybody we invite blogs on DDEV.com. It's really easy to do. It's markdown. We help people to do it. We love to have those kind of experimental things that can open up people's eyes to using technology in different ways. So that's great. And you've been saying that about hiring a development person for a lot of years now, and you may just be right. So we have to, and if you have proposals, finding somebody that's good is not that easy, but you may just be right. So
Well,
I have a little bit to chip in with respect to what Kari just mentioned. I think one of the things we can explore with respect to making DDEV more used and more making it known to more users is to key into a trend. So for example, which also kind of ties to what Kari mentioned, MCP servers, right? So if we have an integration, so for example, in DevDB, the VS Code extension I mentioned earlier, I have an MCP server that runs a simple Express server that exposes some tools to an MCP server. And when I release that, it increased the adoption for that extension because it just simply rode the wave of MCP servers AI. So if we have Warp AI, because I think Warp AI also has support for MCP servers, and we have a way, we have something in DDEV. I don't know if it's something that I can easily work with, maybe with stars or something, whereby you can run a simple command and then sections of the docs, for example, or how to make some quick configurations, for example, or we can just convert most used chunks of the DDEV config command to MCP servers. And we can write blog posts that we can share in those AI tool communities, So that gives more exposure to people that may not have heard of DDEV, before then, and which may be useful to them. So I think that's one thing we can also consider.
yeah, and contributions from all of you as you explore these spaces are very, very welcome. There's so much going on, and it's very scattered. And one day it's MCP, and the next day it's something else. Things don't last very long, but your contributions and thoughts and experiments are very, very welcome on your blog or ours, or in issues, or in Discord, or any other place. So anyway. I know that all of you have another meeting to go to now, and I so much appreciate you coming today, and your thoughts and your reactions on all these things, and your thoughts about governance. Our next meeting is September 3rd, but don't be a stranger. We're there in Discord all the time and lots of other places, and very, very happy to see you, hear your thoughts, hear your ideas about contribution. And thank you so much for coming today. And I'm still here. I'll turn off the recording. I know most of you have someplace to go, but happy to chat with you in the next few minutes if you want. So thank you so much.
Thank you.